Hi guys, and welcome to your Cambridge C1 Essay Writing Masterclass. My name's Hayley and I'm going to be teaching you today how to write the perfect top scoring Cambridge C1 essay. So I've been teaching the exam for over 10 years now, so I know exactly what you need to do to pass your Cambridge C1 writing, and that's what we're going to do in this masterclass today. So, welcome, first of all. Second of all, we're going to take a quick look at what you're going to be learning in this masterclass today. So, first of all, we're going to take a look at writing criteria. This is really important. You need to know this because it basically tells you exactly what the examiner is looking for when they're reading your essay. So, we're going to take a quick look at that. Then we're going to take a look at some vocabulary and grammar. This is essential stuff that you need to include to get a high mark for your language criteria. Next up, I'm going to be giving you a really easy essay structure to follow. You can use this for any essay question that you get. So every time you practice writing an essay, you can just follow this simple structure and you'll be able to write a pretty decent essay, a very organized essay, okay? And included in this, you're going to have some interactive writing practice. So whenever I show you how to write an introduction or a body paragraph, you can actually practice writing interactively on a presentation. So what you need to do now in order to do this is click the link under this video that says Pear Deck Interactive Presentation, and that will open this presentation that we're looking at here, and you can interact in real time with the slides. So if I ask you a question, you can choose an option, you can write directly on the slides as well. So it's just another way to make this workshop a little bit more interactive for you. So go ahead and click under the video now, and then you can use my voice to guide you while you're looking at that presentation. Okay, so once you've got that, the first slide that you should see is marking criteria. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at first. So your marking criteria then. Basically, you're marked on 4 different things, and you get a maximum score of 5 points for each of those things. So your first criteria is content. Content basically means, have you answered the question? Okay. Have you included all the points that you need to include? Is all of your information relevant? Are you writing information that is not necessary? Okay, so your maximum score there is 5 and your minimum score is 1. Moving on to language. Language is your vocabulary and your grammar, and also your accuracy of both of those and your range. So you need to be using a lot of different vocabulary. You're not repeating yourself when you're using vocabulary, and you also need to use kind of high-level complex grammar and simple grammar as well. So that's your language mark, again out of 5. Next, you're marked on organization. So are you using paragraphs effectively? Does each paragraph have a particular point to it? Are you using linking words and cohesive devices to make your writing flow better? Okay, all of that is organization, again out of 5. And finally, communicative achievement. That's your final mark, which basically means, are you able to communicate or express your ideas effectively, both complex ideas and simple ideas? And if the examiner is confused at all while they're reading your writing. If they are confused, you'll get a lower mark for communicative achievement. Okay, but obviously we want a 5. So you get 5 for each of those for a maximum score of 20. That's also the same for part 2 as well, but for now we're just taking a look at part 1. So, if you're not sure what an essay question looks like, it's going to look like this in your exam, okay? So, 220 to 260 words, that's your word limit, okay? You'll get about 45 minutes to write this, okay? 45 minutes for part 1, 45 for part 2. It's usually based on the follow-up of a discussion. So it'll normally say, for example, you've attended a discussion on X, Y, and Z, and then you've made some notes. and then you have to use those notes to answer a question, okay? You can only discuss 2 of the points in your notes. That's always obligatory. You'll always see at the bottom here, write an essay discussing 2 facilities in your notes, okay? Explain which is more important. And you can use these notes to help you, but you don't have to, okay? So you can either think of your own ideas or think of your own points, or you can use the points in the notes as well, okay? So that's what it looks like. All right, so if you head on over to the next slide, we're going to take a look at some vocabulary now, okay? So this is going to be all the essential stuff that you need to include in your essay to get that high mark, okay? First of all, we're going to take a look at some useful phrases. You can also access these in the PDF under this video as well. There's a few more links under the video. Make sure you click them and you'll be able to download all of the materials from there. So first of all, in your introduction, you can say something like X, or whatever topic you've been given has been a widely debated topic recently, okay? You could say, we live in an age where many of us, again, something about your topic, or there's no doubt that X, your topic, has been, and then a verb and ing. This is a nice one because you can get present perfect continuous right in that first sentence, which is a complex tense to use, so you'll get a higher mark for grammar. So that third one's quite a nice one to use. You could say, moving on to your kind of first body paragraph, you could say, firstly, it's generally considered that, and then you make your point. If you move on to your second paragraph, you could say, another factor to consider is, so you need to find ways to link all of your ideas together, and this is just a different way to give you that, okay? So firstly, and then when you continue, another factor to consider is okay? Next up, moving on to your conclusion, okay? So you could say, having taken the points into consideration, and then you give your conclusion. It's always nice to include a prediction in your conclusion as well. So you could say, if the government were to, the situation would. Really nice, because again, complex grammar. You get a conditional form in there. Examiners are looking for conditional forms in your writing, so that's a really nice one to use. And if you're talking about issues, you could say the problem often stems from or comes from, stem being kind of high-level vocabulary, so you'll get a nice extra point for that. And if you're asked to give your opinion at all, it should always be at the end of your essay. And you can say, I am inclined to believe that, and then you can give your opinion. Okay, so they're just some useful phrases. Again, click under the video to access the PDF. We're going to move on to some more vocabulary, which is linking words. So these are really important, not only for your language mark, but also for your organization mark. So these are going to help your writing to stay organized, okay? So, first of all, what are linking words? Okay, linking words are literally words that link your writing together, and it just helps it to stay more logical and more ordered, okay? We have some linking words for order, okay, like overall, therefore, consequently. So instead of saying so, you can use these, and it makes it more formal. We have linking words for contrast, okay, despite of, in spite of, although, even though, however. So anytime you need to contrast an idea, you can use that. To add extra information or another idea, in addition, what's more, additionally, and to show cause and effect, therefore, thus, as a result. So as you can see, we do have quite a lot of linking words in English. So it's one thing to use linking words, another thing is to use them correctly. So I'm just going to show you a couple of really common mistakes that I see all the time when people try to use these linking words in an essay. Again, remember, it's not just being able to use them, but it's being able to use them accurately. That's what's going to get you the points, okay? So the first one I see quite a lot is with despite or in spite of. So often people will try to use it like this, despite, and then they try and use an infinitive verb, despite to be beautiful to look at. Public gardens don't have much practical use. You cannot do that. You must use an ing, okay, despite being. Okay, so despite always takes an ing form. Despite being beautiful to look at, public gardens don't have much practical use. Despite can also take a noun as well, but if you're using a verb, it has to be an ing. Otherwise, it's incorrect. Okay. Remember, you can also replace despite with in spite of, and it means exactly the same. Okay, so despite being beautiful to look at, in spite of being beautiful to look at. Okay, you can use them interchangeably, but always make sure you have that ing form. Okay, so that's the first mistake I see. Another common mistake is with although and even though. So a lot of the time, people will say, although gardens being beautiful to look at, okay, or to be. You can't do that, okay? So you cannot use an infinitive verb and you cannot use an ing form either with although. You need to use a subject, a verb, and an object after although, okay? So you get although gardens are beautiful. Subject, verb, and then object or complement, okay? Although gardens are beautiful to look at, they don't have much practical use, okay? So that's although. Always use subject, verb, object, and remember, okay, again, you can't use an infinitive or ing, but also remember that you can use even though in place of although, okay? Just like you can use despite of in place of in spite of, we can use even though in place of although, okay? Even though gardens are beautiful to look at, although gardens are beautiful to look at, okay? So, although and even though is interchangeable, despite and in spite of are interchangeable. Despite and in spite of take ing, although and even though take a subject, verb, object, okay? Make sure you remember how to use these linking words properly, okay? Right, in order for you to practice your linking words, there's a game underneath the video, okay? So you can click that now if you want and have a quick practice with linking words, or you can stay here with me and we'll continue on, okay? Right, so if you go on to the next slide, if you're taking a look at the Pear Deck presentation, head on over to the next slide and you'll be able to see two texts, okay? This is all about phrasal verbs. This is our next vocabulary point, okay? So I want you to look at these two texts, and on the Pear Deck presentation, you can actually click now, okay? I want you to tell me which text sounds more formal to you, A or B. Again, you can click on the presentation if you want. So A, we've got, they set up a company in 6 months, their numbers went up, but the numbers didn't add up. We found out that they made them up because they were racking up debt. Versus, they established a company in 6 months, their numbers increased, but the numbers didn't appear correct. We discovered that they fabricated them because they were accumulating debt. Okay, so you tell me, which one sounds more formal to you, A or B? I'll give you 3 seconds to answer. Off you go. All right, so you should have answered that B sounds more formal. And the reason it sounds more formal is because there are no phrasal verbs. Okay, so in your essay, you want to try and avoid using phrasal verbs because phrasal verbs are informal. We use them a lot in informal, colloquial speech. So when you're writing a formal essay, you shouldn't be using them. However, there are a few phrasal verbs that are appropriate to use, and you will get a higher mark if you're able to use them, okay? So in general, stay away from phrasal verbs, okay? As we said, B is more formal because phrasal verbs are informal. Stay away from phrasal verbs apart from these few, okay? These few we can use, okay? So these are the phrasal verbs that you'll be able to use in your essay. We've got carry out, base on, look into, point out, account for, and consist of. Okay, they're the phrasal verbs that are appropriate to use. We're going to take a look at them now in context, and if you can use any of these in your essay, you'll get quite a high mark for language and for your vocabulary. Okay. So again, stay away from phrasal verbs apart from these. Let's take a look what they mean. So carry out. Carry out we normally use with research, experiments, or tests, and it's just a synonym for do. Okay. So many studies have been carried out into, many studies have been done. Okay, it's just a synonym for do, but we use this with research or experiments. So when you're giving an example of your point, if you want to support the point you're making, you can use carry out instead of do. Okay. Next up, based on. Okay, if something is based on something, it's used, you basically use facts to make a decision. Okay, so you could say, based on the information above, I recommend da da da. So this is nice to use in your conclusion. Okay, so you could say, based on the points above, I believe that, and then you can give your opinion. Okay, so that's phrasal verb number 2. Number 3, look into. This means to research or investigate something. Okay, experts have looked into the link between X and Y. Da da da. Okay, or again, you can maybe use this in your conclusion. After looking into this topic or looking into this issue, I believe that da da da. Okay, so look into, to research or investigate. Point out. This is a great one. Especially to use in your introduction, you could use this, okay, when you're explaining the points that you're about to make. You could say, this essay points out or highlights or explains X, Y, Z. So you can use that in your introduction. You can also use it to give an example. Recent research points out the importance of da da da. Okay, so another really great one to use. Account for. Okay, account for means to explain or represent. Okay, for example, marketing accounts for 20% of the budget. Okay, but you could also use this in a different way in your essay as well. Okay, so why, if you're answering the question why does something or how does something, you can say X, Y, Z accounts for or explains why X, Y, Z. All right, and our final one is consist of, which just means include. Okay, so this essay consists of 3 key points, X, Y, and Z. Okay, and there you go. There's a few phrasal verbs that you can use in your essay that are appropriate, and they won't change the style of your essay. Your essay will still be formal, but you'll get a high mark for vocabulary. Okay, right, so that's it for vocabulary. Next, we're going to head on to grammar. Okay, so if you head on to the next slide in the presentation, we're going to take a look at 2 main grammar points now, which are cleft sentences and inversion. So the examiners expect to see this in your writing. Okay, as soon as they see this, you'll get a big tick on your marking sheet, and they'll be very impressed with it. So you'll get much higher points for language if you can include a cleft sentence or an inversion. If you're not sure what they are, we're going to take a look now. So we'll start with cleft sentences. Okay, cleft sentences, we just use these to give more emphasis in a sentence. And you can do this by emphasizing nouns, or you can emphasize verbs as well. And there are 2 types of cleft sentences. We have what cleft sentences, which you can see here. So instead of saying, for example, a well-equipped sports centre is needed, instead you could say, what is needed most is a well-equipped sports centre. Okay, so we use what at the start. Okay, then you have a clause. And then we use is or was, depending on if you're speaking in the present or the past. And the thing that you want to emphasize comes directly after is or was. Okay, so now a well-equipped sports centre is the most important thing in this sentence. It has more emphasis. Okay, what is needed most is a well-equipped sports centre. So that is a what clause or a what clef sentence. Okay, we also use it clauses. Okay, if you want to emphasize a reason, you can use it. So perhaps it is because they're too expensive that the sports centre won't be funded. So again, the thing that you want to emphasize comes after is or was. Okay, perhaps it's because they're too expensive. They're too expensive is now the most important thing in this sentence. Okay, this is what's emphasized. And you can also use it clauses to emphasize people as well. So again, you would just put it is, a clause, whatever you're emphasizing, and then who, and then another clause. Okay, for example, it was Einstein who once said that. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So here we're emphasizing Einstein, because again, it comes directly after was or is. Okay, so remember, either it or what, and then whatever you're emphasizing comes after is or was. That's how we make a clef sentence. So this is just a different grammar structure so that you're not always repeating the same structure, because it becomes quite robotic when you read it. It's not very engaging, and you'll get a lower mark for language, and you'll also get a lower mark probably for organisation, because again it becomes quite robotic, your writing. Also communicative achievement as well. It becomes a bit difficult to read, you know. Alright, so that's a really quick look at clef sentences. Now we're going to take a look at inversion. Okay, so what is inversion? Exactly what it says it is. Basically, you're going to invert your subject and your auxiliary, and also you need to use a negative adverb as well here. And again, we use this for emphasis. Okay, so like I said, we use negative adverbs or adverb phrases. You can use any of these if you want. Okay, so no sooner, rarely, hardly, never, little, in no way, only then, on no account. They're going to go at the start of your sentence, and then you're going to invert your auxiliary verb and your subject. So that's going to look something like this. Let's take a look. So your normal sentence would be, it will improve people's physical health and mental health. Instead, just to change the structure around, we can use a negative adverb or phrase, not only. And then you can see that your auxiliary and your subject has changed places. So instead of having it will, we have will it. Not only will it improve people's physical health, but also their mental health. Okay. So this is not a question, it's still a statement, even though your auxiliary and subject are switched around. But again, it just puts a bit more emphasis on your statement, makes it a bit more maybe surprising or a bit more important. So definitely try to use this if you can in your essay. You'll get very high points if you can use this for your language mark. I'll show you another way that you can do it as well. So like we said, add the adverb at the start of the sentence and then invert your auxiliary and your subject. So instead of saying I have never, you can switch never to the front and then invert have and I. Never have I had such an awful meal. Okay, so again, it just makes it more, gives it more of a punch, makes it more emphatic, okay? All right, so that's inversion. That's how you can use it in your essay to get some higher points. Moving on, if we move on to the next slide, we're going to take a look at organisation. So that was just a really quick run through of essential vocabulary and essential grammar. Again, you can access that in the PDF underneath the video. Now I'm going to show you a really easy structure, basic structure that you can use for any of your essays. Okay. So let's take a quick look. The amount of words you need to use is quite important as well, because you want your essay to appear organised. Okay, so you don't want like 10 words in your introduction and then 100 words in one of your body paragraphs. It needs to be relatively separated quite well. So your introduction only really needs to be about 50 words. Okay, it doesn't need to be too long. You're going to make a general statement, and then you're going to say what you're going to discuss, which is your 2 points from the question. Okay, so you'll have 3 points there, and you can choose 2 that you want to discuss about. Okay, so general statement, what you'll discuss. Your body paragraph is going to be about 70 words, and you're going to discuss your first point using the PEAT structure. If you don't know what the PEAT structure is, don't worry, we're going to take a look at it in a second, okay? Body paragraph 2, again the same, but now with your second point in your PEAT structure, and then your conclusion is going to be about 50 words. You need to make a decision, and you need to make a prediction as well. Or you don't need to, but it's a nice idea too, and it's an easy way to get more points as well. So, that's your basic structure. Now we're going to take a look in more depth at the different parts. So we're going to start with the introduction. So we said you need a general statement about your topic, then you need to say what you're going to discuss, and then you need a closing statement. So this is an example here. So your general statement, if your topic is about kind of funding for different things in town, I'd say there's no doubt that funding has been much debated recently, and choosing only one facility to support is a difficult task. Okay, that's your general statement. Next, you're going to say what you will discuss. This essay intends to discuss financial possibilities for 2 facilities, sports centres and public gardens. And finally, although they are both important places, only one can be chosen to receive money. So that's your general closing statement. You've got a few useful phrases here. There's no doubt that this essay intends to. Okay. So that's all you need to put in your introduction, really. Okay, just 3 simple sentences. General statement about the topic you've been asked, what you're going to discuss, and then a quick closing statement for your introduction. That's it, 50 words maximum. Okay. So now it's your turn. If you're using the Pear Deck presentation, you can write on the next slide now. If you flick over to the next slide, you'll be able to write an introduction. So you've got a question here. Okay, your class has attended a debate on what methods government should use to tackle obesity in school children, and you've made some notes below. So your 3 methods are lesson on nutrition, sports facilities, and legislation. You need to choose 2 of those to talk about. And you've got some opinions here, okay? So I want you to write an introduction now, 50 words, okay, using that structure I gave you. General statement about obesity in school children. What you're going to discuss, which is going to be 2 of these notes here, 2 of these points, and then your general closing statement. Okay. So if you're using the Pear Deck app, if you're using the Pear Deck website, you can do that now, and you can pause the video. And when you're done, come back, okay, unpause the video, and we're going to move on now to take a look at body paragraphs, okay? So go ahead, do your introduction, and then come back. For now, we're going to continue to body paragraphs, so we're going to take a look at this PEAT structure. This is a really simple structure that will help you to write in a more organized way, and it'll help you get a few more ideas as well. So, what is PEAT structure? So, PEAT stands for point, explanation, example, transition. Okay? Which means you're going to make your point about whatever point you're talking about. Is it good? Is it bad? Do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? You're going to explain why. Then you're going to give an example to support what you've said. And then you're going to transition to your next point or your next paragraph. Okay. So let's take a look at what that looks like then. So, my point. Having a well-equipped sports centre is essential for any area. That's my point. Okay, why? We need to give an explanation. If the centre had a range of equipment and is accessible to everyone, this would encourage more people to use it. Okay, then we need to give an example or support this point. Okay, What's more, linking word, research has found that neighbourhoods with at least one sports centre show a significant drop in rates of obesity and weight-related illnesses. Okay, so when you're giving an example, you can give an example of research. It doesn't have to be real research. You can just make up some research. You can give an example of research, or you can give a more general example if you want. It doesn't have to be super specific. So we've got our example, and then I need to transition to my next point or my next paragraph. Therefore, funding for the sports centre would benefit people greatly. However, giving money to museums can also have huge advantages. Okay, and from here, I'm going to start my next paragraph, which is going to be about museums. So we've transitioned over. Okay, so that should be about 70 words for one body paragraph. And then you're going to repeat that for your second body paragraph. Okay, so you're going to have two paragraphs, point, explanation, example, transition. Okay, for both your paragraphs. Right, your turn again. Okay, so if you're using the Pear Deck presentation, again, you can write a body paragraph now for the same question that we had before. Okay. Use that PEAT structure, point, example, explanation, transition, okay? You can use maybe a topic sentence if you want. Topic sentences are like bold, big sentences. You can either make a very strong statement, or you can use like a quotation from someone if you want, just to kind of grab the reader's attention a bit more. That's going to be the first sentence of your paragraph, okay? So use that PEAT structure. Make sure that you're using linking words as well. In addition, what's more, however, okay? Remember, the examiners need to see these linking words. Also try to use an inversion or a cleft sentence somewhere, okay? So try to use that vocabulary and that grammar that we've already looked at, and the linking words as well. Put that all together and write a body paragraph for me, okay? Okay, go and do that now, and we're going to carry on, and we're going to take a look at how to write a conclusion. So again, your conclusion quite short, about 50 words, same as your introduction, and you only need to do two things in your conclusion. One, you need to make a decision. Usually in the question, it will ask you to choose which point is either more important or the best XYZ. You normally have to make a decision. So you're going to make your decision, and then it's also a nice idea to make a prediction, because you can use a conditional or you can use future perfect here, get some more complex grammar in. Again, the examiners are looking for conditionals, maybe a future perfect in there as well. So here's an example of a conclusion for you. Keep this sentence in mind because it's really nice for your conclusion. Having taken the points above into consideration. That's a really nice way to start your conclusion, so keep that in mind. It will be in your useful phrases PDF as well. It is clear that a sports centre would be much more beneficial than a garden. So you've made your decision, which is more important, and then make a prediction about what would happen if this funding went to the sports centre. So if the sports centre were to receive extra financing, more people would be healthier and the money will have been put to good use. So we've got a conditional and we've also got a future perfect there as well. Okay, so you get complex grammar in right at the end. It's very clear, you've made your decision, you've included everything you need to include. Okay, so again, having taken the points into consideration, keep that in mind. Nice way to start your conclusion. And if with a conditional, be a really nice way to start that conclusion. Okay. So again, final time, you guys are going to write on the Pear Deck interactive presentation. You can write a conclusion for your essay here. Okay, and that's it. That's a really quick rundown of everything you need to include in a Cambridge C1 essay. Okay, don't forget to download everything under the video. You've got flashcards for phrasal verbs. I know be wary of phrasal verbs in your essay, but they will help your speaking. You've got a checklist for your essay PDF. You've got 10 essay questions there as well, so you can practice everything that you've learned. in this workshop, okay, with the 10 essays. You've got useful phrases lists, and you've got your phrasal verbs and collocations PDF as well, okay? If you need anything else, you can get me on my website, englishclassesonline.co.uk. And if you want a bit more of a kind of more in-depth tutorial about the essay, I do have a Cambridge C1 essay course. I'll put a discount link under this video as well. You can check it out. There's a few preview videos on there so you can see kind of how detailed it is and how interactive it is. It includes lots of games, flashcards. You'll get much more of a kind of detailed rundown. It's about 3 hours long instead of 30 minutes long like this workshop. So that's there for you if you're interested. And if you have any questions about the Cambridge C1 exam or the essay or just English in general, you can get me on my email at hayleyispeaking@gmail.com. You can subscribe on YouTube as well. I upload weekly videos on there for you so you can practice your English every week. And my website, again, is www.englishclassesonline.co.uk. So thanks for joining me in this Cambridge C1 Writing Masterclass. I hope it helped you, and I hope to see you in another class soon. All right, see you soon. Bye.